Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Amy and today I am going to tell you about my top 10 favorite escape rooms. I tried to split these up into different escape room companies because if I didn't, a lot of these would just be in 2 or 3 different escape rooms that I've played, they were that good. I decided to put these puzzles in order from good, better, and to best, so make sure to stay tuned for number 10. But these are some of my absolute favorites, so I'm excited to share them with you. Let's get started. The first cool puzzle that I encountered was a phone number puzzle. In this escape room, there was a phone in the room, and obviously you tend to use everything in the escape room, and most of the time it's not a phone. So we tried picking it up, typing in random numbers, it would always have a dial tone, but then it would come back saying, or error or something. So we knew we needed to use it somehow, but we just didn't have the right number. And then eventually we got a CD, put the CD into the CD player, and it started playing 8675309. That was the phone number, and wasn't the greatest puzzle idea, just because I feel like some people probably guessed that number because it's such a meme number. But sure enough, it worked. We typed that in. It gave us a like ding kind of a sound, and then all of a sudden the drawer underneath the phone that we weren't able to open popped open. It must have been connected by magnets until it had the right code. And it was just really clever. I thought that was really high tech and really interesting. So that was my favorite puzzle for the first one. My second favorite escape room puzzle was in a Christmas themed escape room. It starts off with giving you a whole bunch of these letters, like Scrabble letters or magnet letters, and you assume that you're probably going to spell something with them or there's going to be some kind of pattern, and then you realize that there's one of everything. And so you keep going through the whole puzzle and you realize the only letter it's missing is L. It's like, what the heck? Why is there no L? No L? Get it? Because it's a Christmas puzzle? I love that so much, and anyone who's played some of my Christmas rooms will probably recognize that puzzle, and I totally stole it from somewhere else, but it was just too clever not to use, so that was my second favorite. My third favorite escape room puzzle was from the very first escape room I ever visited, and it was in Kansas City back in 2016. This puzzle was a calendar on a whiteboard, and it had letters and numbers written into all the different dates. And it totally looked like a puzzle, like it had to be. This was not a usual calendar. I went to look at it and I touched one of them and I realized that it was erasable. Who does that? Like, who would have a puzzle that someone can just accidentally completely erase and then, no one would escape? This was one of the few games that I played with strangers. Most of the time I try not to do that. I like playing with my family. One of the other team members wanted to erase it, and I thought that was nuts, and so I told him heck no. So I decided to write down a copy of this whole calendar on a piece of paper, then he could erase it so that we'd still have a copy of it. And then he erased it, and not everything would erase. And then we realized some of it was written in Sharpie, and the remaining letters and numbers was the puzzle that we actually needed. The point was to erase it. Oh, that scared me so much. This puzzle almost made my worst escape room list, but I can't be a hypocrite because I liked it enough that I've actually used it now. So, I just really loved that puzzle. I thought that was really clever. At the time, I definitely hated it, but it made my top favorites, so that is my third favorite puzzle. My fourth favorite escape room puzzle was another blunder, kind of. It was the puzzle that stumped us, and we ended up not escaping this one. We were in a nerds-themed room. It was like a boy who was just really nerdy, and we were in his bedroom, and he was like gonna take over the world, and we had to stop him. And so we're like going through all of his stuff. It's a very comic book and superhero and tech themed. It was perfect. It was just like your stereotypical nerds room. And at the very end, we had a list of superhero names and also their like regular names. So you might have like Iron Man and then Tony Stark, Batman and Bruce Wayne, and they would be, in different orders. And so some of them went to the same person, if you know what I mean. And we had no idea what this was supposed to go to. It was completely over our heads. We couldn't figure it out. Finally, when the time ran out and the game master came in to help us, she showed us this giant thing on the wall. Giant 4 posters, like huge, of 4 different superheroes. One of them was like the Hulk, I think another one was Iron Man, another one was Captain America, and some other Marvel character. And they were up, down, and left and right. I couldn't believe it, we didn't see that. Like, it's this giant directional puzzle on the wall. And the reason I liked it so much was because it was so obvious, but still blended in enough that we couldn't figure it out. And I like using puzzles like that that are seemingly decoration, but then turn out to be secret puzzle. So that was my 4th favorite one. My 5th favorite escape room puzzle was in a hotel themed room, and we were trying to figure out if someone was a spy, or how to figure out if someone was a spy. And we had an MP3 player that had 5 audio clips on it from different people. Our goal was to figure out who was telling the truth and who was not. It was like an honesty test. And we had this list, and I think it said things like, someone who's lying will mention their location a lot. Or someone who's lying won't use contractions like won't and don't and can't. And so when we were listening to these, we had to keep those in mind and figure out who was lying and who was telling the truth. And it was just really cool. It eventually went and opened a lock somewhere, but it really felt like we were in the theme of the room. It felt like we were detectives, because that's exactly what I'm sure some detectives have to think about, is they really analyze the little details like that. It was a genius puzzle. I was really happy with it. So that was my 5th favorite. My 6th favorite puzzle, we've seen multiple times now, and it's kind of a standard for escape rooms, but this first one was just so cool. It was a great memory, and that is a secret door, most of the time a bookcase. This room, I think we had a keypad on the wall we had to type in a code to. It wasn't obvious what this was going to open since it was just a keypad on the wall. And as soon as we did that, the bookcase started swinging open, and we were shocked. Like, we did not expect that at all. The first room was a good sized room. It wasn't like really tiny and like we needed more space. Like, we weren't expecting this at all. This was so cool. And we've seen it multiple times since then, as that is just like one of the things that people want to try and do in escape rooms is when they're making it, is to have that kind of a reveal. So that first one was so cool, and now we kind of anticipate it, but that was my 6th favorite experience. My 7th favorite puzzle was like a classroom themed escape room, and there were keys that were up on the ceiling that we couldn't reach. Part of this classroom we ended up into like a janitor's closet, so it was really small. But luckily it wasn't the only room we had. There were these like bars along the ceiling, and there was a ring of keys on them that we needed to get a hold of. And the only way that we could get them off was by using a broom and a mop inside the janitor's closet and knocking the keys left and right to get them to wiggle along until they fell off on this one side of the bars in the ceiling. That was just so clever. The ceilings were so high, so there really was no other way to get them other than to do this method. And we had to do teamwork. So me and my cousin, like, I had to hit one side and she had to hit the other side. We just thought that was so clever. And the escape room that this puzzle was in actually had a bunch of other really cool puzzles in it. So if I had to list them all, this actually would have been probably my favorite escape room, just because every single puzzle was so clever, and I've used a lot of them in my own escape rooms. But that was probably one of my favorite puzzles of that whole thing. My 8th favorite, I guess I should start saying my 3rd favorite because I'm going up to the best, was a magnetic maze puzzle. And I've seen several of these online that I could buy and purchase and use in other escape rooms and stuff, which is where you have to use a magnet on the front and you guide a key or a puzzle piece or whatever through this maze until you get to an open hole so you can grab the item. But this one, you had to maneuver from the opposite side. So we were in an escape room where they split up our team, where half of us was in one room and half in the other. We had to talk through a porthole for most of it. It actually ended up opening up, which was another really cool thing. But for a while there, this magnetic maze, the person on the other side had to be the one maneuvering it, but they couldn't see the maze. So we had to direct them go to your left, I mean my left, and stop, and put it down, and then wait, go back, and oh, it was just so clever. It was a whole bunch of teamwork, a whole bunch of communication skills needed, and it was this cool magnet maze, but I never thought of doing it from backwards, from behind. So that was really, really neat, and that was another one of my really favorite escape rooms. They had some excellent puzzles. Just the thought of splitting up a team, I think, is just really clever, and it brings a lot of new opportunities to have some forced teamwork. So that was my 8th favorite. My 9th favorite puzzle, I don't know how I've been doing this. 9. Just switch thumbs. This one was in a laboratory themed room, and this is actually the one where we got ignored if you've seen my other worst escape room videos. But this one was very high tech, as I mentioned in the last video, and one of my favorite puzzles was we had a case that had some like beakers in them that had some liquid, some dark liquid in them, and we thought it was just decoration, didn't really think of it being useful to us. And then we had to type in some kind of puzzle, and then all of a sudden the liquid started draining from these beakers, like into, I guess, the bottom of the cage. I don't know where they went, but as soon as the liquid got out of these beakers, there was codes, there was like letters and numbers and whatever hiding behind this liquid that we wouldn't have been able to see until the liquid drained. And that was just really, really cool. Another thing that we totally weren't expecting, and it was a perfect use of the theme of having this crazy laboratory, and I don't even know where to start with making a puzzle like that. I thought that was so cool, and it made the experience a lot better. All right, the one you've all been waiting for, my 10th favorite, aka my absolute favorite puzzle, was in an Egyptian themed room. The whole thing starts off, you have your introduction paper, and it has the rules and stuff on it with the Anubis thing that I eventually started. I hated that puzzle, but this one was my favorite. The first clue to get you started said you must see through the eyes of the pharaoh. And so there's a handful of like pharaoh looking posters around the room and pictures and some like gold statues and stuff. It was really themed. It was themed excellently. So we were like really looking at the eyes of all these pharaohs. I had no idea what's going on. There was a stage set up with a chair in the middle, and the chair looked pretty old, and it was like obviously painted, and it looked really nice, but I don't know, it looked kind of rickety, and so we weren't gonna deal with it at all. And we kind of figured out that maybe like the pharaoh would sit in the chair and he would look this way, and so we were just kind of standing around the chair because it like I said, it looked kind of rickety. We didn't really want to sit on it because it didn't look like real furniture, and we weren't sure if it was gonna like hold us, if you know what I mean. So we were looking around at whatever was on that back wall, and we couldn't figure anything out, and it took us about 5 minutes before I decided to sit on the chair, and that's all it took. It must be a pressure sensor, it must be a weight sensor, because as soon as I sat on that chair, one of the doors opened, and we were shocked. We were like, oh my gosh, that was genius. You have to see through the eye of the pharaoh. Where was the pharaoh sit? He sits in the chair. And the chair actually wasn't that rickety. I think it was just like a fancy chair, and they obviously did something to it to make it with this mechanism in it. But gosh, that was so genius. And it was so fun to talk to the game master after that, because she was telling us about some of these other teams that have been in that room. And she said sometimes some groups take 10-15 minutes before they solve that, before they figure out what they're supposed to do. And they have to ask for a hint of like, what the heck, because they don't really want to sit in that chair. And then other groups that have a person that maybe isn't really into playing and they weren't expecting to really help a lot, go in there and instantly sit on that chair, and then they have this huge head start. I just think that is so fun. I wish I could do something like that was automated and a little bit unexpected, but it's so high tech that my escape room just really can't handle it. But that was my absolute favorite puzzle. I think about that often, about ways that maybe I could somehow include it in my escape rooms. That was number 10, my absolute favorite puzzle. Thank you guys so much for watching my video, especially all the way to the end. Make sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel for more escape room content. Have a good day.